In Brussels, when I began the conversation with everyone there, we started talking about whether God exists or not. And because we've already had sort of that discussion, we don't want to have that discussion with you. So I'm just going to make a blanket statement. God exists. If you don't agree with that, then you're probably in the wrong room. Now, the fact that God exists means that God is real. And that this is an interesting thing to bear in mind in your analysis of life. And the question I've got for many of you is, God is real. So what does that mean to you? You see, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we have lives that we're involved in things every day, we're doing things every day, we're having relationships with people, having learning processes ourselves. But how often do we contemplate that if God exists and God is real, what does that mean for me in my future? And what does it even mean for me right now if God exists and God is real? It's an interesting thing to contemplate. And if God exists and God is real, the next and probably the even bigger question becomes, what is God's personality and nature? You know, how does God feel? What does God think? What does God, how does God express her personality? What is her personality? What qualities does God have? And why are those qualities important to me? If you think about it from a logical perspective, let's say at the moment humans don't really understand, do they, how big the universe is? You know, they know that it seems to be expanding. They know that because they can measure that there's some things travelling farther away from us over time, and they measure it by what's called redshift and blueshift with regard to light to see how fast those things are travelling, whether they're travelling towards us or away from us. And in the process, they can see that it appears that the universe is expanding, which would tend to indicate that the physical universe in which we live has sort of like an outer boundary of some kind. And if the universe has an outer boundary and all the galaxies and everything is it is slowly expanding, then that means the universe is in a state of constant change, doesn't it? So things are travelling at hundreds of millions speed of light per second. Things are travelling apart, and it appears like that might be a never-ending thing. But of course, there's so much that humans are yet to know about the universe itself, and so the main thing we can assume from that is, well, it appears like the universe might have an edge. We don't really know. It might have a limit. We don't really know that either. But the fact that it's all expanding means it must be going somewhere, and therefore expanding into greater usage of space. But that's the physical universe. And 95% of all matter is actually existing in the invisible universe. So that they're predicted through seeing the effects of things on other things, that there's a whole lot of matter that exists in the universe. And they are right in that regard. A whole lot of matter exists in the universe that is unseen. Now, that matter is in different dimensions, different dimensional spaces. So there's this physical universe, but there's also you could say a universe which is also physical, but it's in other dimensional spaces, in areas we can't see with our eyes. We can't measure it using the visible spectrum of light. And also it takes up a similar space to the physical universe. This is something most people don't understand, mostly because they've never seen it. And, you know, the advantage of coming from the spirit world like Mary and I have is that we've seen it, so it's easy for us to recognise it as real. So there's a physical universe, and then there's these other aspects of the universe. Let's just call them, there's unseen parts of the universe that we can't see, that are still a part of the universe. Now, if God, one of God's qualities is that God is the creator, then it means that God created that. And God not only created it, but also created the laws that govern it, which are more important, if you think about it, than the universe itself. Because without laws governing the universe would be absolutely chaotic. And yet it's not. It's governed by laws. All of the universe is governed by laws. So right down to the smallest particle measured at this stage by man, and there's actually smaller particles than what are measured, right up to the biggest masses in the universe that humans can measure, which are galaxies for the most part, all of them are covered by laws, and there's a seemingly infinite number of laws, and every time humans discover new laws, they can apply those new laws mathematically to the things that they have not yet discovered, and they discover more as a part of that process. And to be honest with you, that's how you ended up with your mobile phone. Your mobile phone is a process of humans discovering laws that govern the physical universe, and also laws that govern a part of the universe that is unseen, because your signal from your mobile phone goes via links that you cannot see. There's a device on the other end you can see, but the transmission of the signals you can't see. They happen near speed of light, and you can't see any of that. But at some point someone had to discover the laws that govern that in order for you to be able to use a mobile phone. So the reality is there are many laws that humans are using right now that they can't see, but they know exist because they're using them, right? So we're discovering that this physical world is governed by law, right? So you could say, if you wanted to summarise the types of law, we can do that in a minute, but you can see that the physical universe that you're currently sitting in is definitely controlled by laws. And that would also indicate, that's one of the evidences, in fact, that a creator exists. Because a chaotic universe wouldn't create a whole heap of laws by itself spontaneously. Right?